I'm assuming you all have a relatively similar body temperature. So, all three pieces of ice are about the same size. So they're just going to stand here for a minute or so, for a couple of minutes, and we'll see which one causes the ice to melt fastest, and which one causes it to melt the slowest. So, prediction. Predict which spoon will melt ice the least. Raise your hand if you predicted the metal spoon will melt the ice the least. Okay? Why did you predict that?
The wooden.
Oh, I said which one? The metal. So you didn't pick the metal. Okay, good. All right. So now the next question is it the wooden one or is it the plastic one? Who said wooden? Okay. Who said plastic? Okay. Okay. That would be hard, that would be a little bit harder to know, right? I think it's pretty clear that the metal one is the better conductor, so we would predict that that one would melt it the fastest. Now between the wood one and the plastic one, we'll just have to wait and see. So does anybody have a puddle yet?
Yeah, I got a little puddle.
A little puddle,
Like
okay.
a little puddle. Shake that. I was drunk so much.
So by the way, the explain might take a fairly good amount of time in your lesson, right? So the engage is pretty quick. The explore and the explain are probably the two biggest chunks of your time. Why don't you walk around and let them see you, Rose?
Watch out. I thought I'm dropping. You see my puddle? Let me see my puddle.
Meredith and Tiffany, you tell us when you start having a puddle.
I kind of have it like on top of the ice cube, but not like where the wood is.
Everybody see my puddle?
Good enough for you. Not to drop it.
Hey, baby. You like my puddle? I'm not walking past this.
Alright, maybe you all can just scoot over here for a minute while we're looking at elaborate, and then you all can fill in your little chart as we go. So, elaborate. This is typically an application of what we talked about in explain. So students can apply the concepts that you taught them in a new situation. Or you can reinforce the concept that you just emphasized with them. So you can see how what we're doing here is very related to what we did in engage, explore, and explain, right? You see the connection. So this might sort of close the teacher-led discussion. And again, the teacher's role is more of a guide on the side, letting the students see and do. Again, any puddles yet, girls?
I have a little.
A little?
I want this one.
What do you all think? Which one do you think has? I think the wood might have a little more, but that white's on its own.
Oh, I mean,
So we're challenging and extending the concept. We are developing deeper understanding. We're applying to a new or similar situation. We're extending, we're communicating new understanding with formal language. So here, I would expect my students to be able to use the words insulator and conductor and thermal energy, where before, they might have they might have had an idea of the concept, but they couldn't necessarily put it into words. So, students are applying the definitions and the concepts. They're using previous information to ask new questions, to propose solutions, to provide reasonable conclusions. The teacher, again, expects the use of the vocabulary, encourages students to apply the new concepts, reminds students of alternative explanations, and uses what we learned as a vehicle to enhance additional learning. I have a decent photo. I think plastic, do you all agree that plastic is the best? So walk around one more time and let them see.
Uh-oh. Supposed to know. Why just a bigger photo? You want to see? Just a bigger photo. Why not? Why just build it? Here, you. Just a bigger photo.
So you all can just discard your eyes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being such good members.
Good job.
So at the end of your lesson, and again, your lesson does not have to be one class period, just like this one is not one. You're probably not very surprised to see that the fifth E is evaluate, because we have to evaluate all the time, right? We need to know what our students learned as a result of our lesson. So again, the evaluate should go back to the objective that you stated in your very beginning of your lesson. So as far as the lesson plan rubric goes, I have to say that overall, oh, by the way, I'm super excited. Remember I told you all I wanted to order those stamps that say objective is not measurable? Yeah. That very day I got home and I had a Groupon for a stamp. So don't tell Miss Blevins, I ordered 2 of them. I'm going to give one to her. It says objective is not measurable. Just one of those self-inking stamps. She's going to be so excited. But anyway, I was like, oh, what good timing. I got that Groupon that day. So, anyway, formative assessment. I have to say, this is where I tend to score lesson plans the lowest. I tend to score lesson plans the lowest here. If you haven't had 390 by the time you're taking your methods classes, I think you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, because in 390, you learn a lot about formative and summative assessments. So I can kind of get it, but you need to, I think you need to spend some time here in general in the formative assessment. So the first thing is an easy one. Make sure that your assessment measures your objective and is measuring your standard. A really good example of a problem that I see it, and I know that that when I was a teacher, in P12, I was guilty of this. So this is a really good math example, geometry. So we all know that the three angles inside of a triangle add up to 180 degrees. And this is not to scale. So let's say my objective was that students will be able to calculate the missing angle in a triangle, okay? So you all would probably know that in order to do this, you need to add the 65 and the 40 and subtract that from 180, and that will tell you the third angle in your triangle, right? So that's my objective. And in my lesson, I teach you all a bunch of examples of that. But then, and I'm picking on this one for sure because I know this happens a lot. But then when you get to the homework, all of a sudden, you get problems like this. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yes. So all of a sudden, this is about solving an equation, isn't it? So if you're assessing your students with a question like this, but your objective was that they find that missing angle, you're really not assessing what your aim was. So make sure that whatever level you're teaching toward, you're assessing toward that same level. So if all of your problems in your lesson are procedural, and then all of a sudden your assessment is a bunch of word problems, that's really not fair, is it? So make sure that whatever you're assessing matches what you're doing in your class. That's one thing to think about. That's why it's really important when you're developing your lesson plan that you know exactly what examples you're going to include. You need to explain when the assessment will be administered or how the assessment will be administered and how this assessment will be used to inform instruction. This part, I would say, I almost never, ever see. Now, if you look at my lesson plan that I gave you as a sample, this could get better. I'll be honest. This could get better. I said that my evaluation was students predict and create a line graph in the Engage. Okay, so that's the when. I got that. During the explain section, I will listen to student explanations.